Schluter KERDI-BOARD is one of the best and easiest ways to waterproof your shower or tub surround before you put your tile up. Today, I'm going to show you how I installed KERDI-BOARD in this 100-year-old bathroom. Before we start, I did want to let you know Schluter is sponsoring today's video. It's a no-brainer for us because number one, we already use KERDI-BOARD, Dietra and Dietra Heat, and we feel like it could help you out with your own project. So this bathtub is a bit of a challenge because we had to reframe everything to the fact that it's 100 years old. In a traditional bathroom or in a traditional bathtub, I would recommend that you start on the first part of the main wall with your Schluter KERDI-BOARD. Today we're not going to do that. I'll explain why. Our wall is plumbed to about here, then comes out at an angle. If you're using half-inch KERDI-BOARD like I'm using today, it's critical that the studs be 16 inches on center and that the KERDI-BOARD be flush with those studs, meaning the KERDI-BOARD needs to rest flat against those studs. So in my case, it's really important that whenever the vertical framing comes up, it meets the angled framing, the KERDI-BOARD sit flush with the angled framing. So that's why we're starting in the middle of this wall today. It's just easier for me to start in the middle of the wall because of how this bathtub is laid out. And that's why we're doing it. Now you may disagree down in the comments and let me know. I'd be more than happy to entertain your feedback. But for me, I just figured based on the planning, it's easier to start in the middle of the wall today and to make sure that the Schluter KERDI-BOARD is sitting flush with these darker colored pieces of 2x4. The only thing that you need to install KERDI-BOARD on wood framing are the Schluter approved screws and washers. The maximum on-center spacing for screws and washers is 12 inches. So what we're going to do is add a screw every 12, at a minimum, every 12 inches. And wherever two boards meet, we're going to pinch a screw and a washer between those two boards to connect the two of them. But I'll show you that in a second here. Another really awesome feature about the Schluter KERDI-BOARD is the fact that it has all these grid lines on it. It makes it super simple to find the studs and to just pinch your washers onto the KERDI-BOARD. As luck would have it, the center of the stud is right on this line here indicated by the 10. I can run my finger up to about 10 to 12 inches and then pinch my screw in the center of that line, or in this case, sorry, my washer. And then all I have to do is place the screw through the washer, through the KERDI-BOARD, and into the framing. Repeat the process every 10 to 12 inches along that same line. One way to speed up the process is just take your washers and pinch them right into the KERDI-BOARD. Then you can drill the screws through the washers. So there you go, that's pretty easy. You can place a screw and a washer between two KERDI-BOARDs so you can pinch them together just like I'm doing here. So now that I have the first panel installed, I'm going to measure from the top of the tub lip to the bottom of the first KERDI-BOARD. I want to get a pretty precise measurement here because I have one big KERDI-BOARD panel that I'm going to put on the bottom. And I need to make an L cut for a knee wall that's on the back wall of this bathtub. So it's a little bit of a complicated cut, nothing terrible, and certainly having KERDI-BOARD makes it so much easier. So all I'm going to do is get the measurement from the top of the tub lip to the bottom of the KERDI-BOARD panel at every single stud to get a precise measurement. Then cut that KERDI-BOARD panel. 34 and 5/8, 34 and 5/8, 34 and 5/8, 34 and 3/4. And I need to measure the distance from the plumbing wall to the knee wall, and that's 60 inches. And the height from the top of the tub lip to the top of the knee wall is about 16 and 3/16. So I need to cut out a little L shape here in the KERDI-BOARD for the knee wall. So it's going to wrap over top of it. And then the total distance from the plumbing wall to the end of the knee wall is 64 inches, which is perfect. So I transferred all the measurements from the tub surround onto this KERDI-BOARD. All you need to do is use a utility knife in a T-square to cut it. The KERDI board is just pinching a little bit tight against this wall here, so all I'm going to do is use my utility knife to scribe cut that. Again, that would not have been easy to do with cement board, so huge benefit with the KERDI board. For this panel, I'm going to place my first washer 3 inches up from the board edge. Then every 12 inches from there. So here's the first wall that I did, completely done. Any scrap pieces that you have hanging around, you can use those because you can hang the KERDI board both vertically, so vertically and horizontally. The main wall is done. Now I need to cut a piece of KERDI board for the plumbing wall. There are 3 holes you need to cut into the KERDI board. One for the tub spout, one for the mixing valve, and one for the shower arm. Let's start with the tub spout. The tub spout is about 3 1/8 inch off the tub, but our KERDI board is going to sit above the tub lip. So the tub spout is about 2 inches above the tub lip, 15.5 inches over from the wall. So these are the 2 dimensions you need for the tub spout, measuring up off the tub lip and off the main wall. You want to do the exact same thing for the mixing valve. 15 5/8 up off the tub lip and 15.5 inches off the wall. Here are my measurements on the KERDI board. So I just transferred those measurements onto the surface of the KERDI board. So here's where the tub spout needs to be. And this is where the mixing valve is going to be located. I'm also going to be using the Schluter KERDI mixing valve seal. So this is my mark for the mixing valve. I'm going to eye up the center of this circle with the center of that mark. And then trace the inside of this. This is a 4.5 inch circle. Now alternatively, what you can do is just grab a compass and just trace that outline with your compass. Then you can just cut it out with a utility knife. Same thing for the tub spout. I'm just going to use my utility knife. Okay. So I have a little bit of a funny story for you. I forgot to put in an extra piece of blocking. This fellow right here. Because this gets me into 16 or less than 16 inches on center, which I totally need for the KERDI board. Had I not put this extra piece of blocking in, I would have been at about 18 inches on center, which is no good. So I had to cut this down the size and put it in here before we put in this plumbing wall piece of KERDI board. I almost installed the KERDI board, then I forgot, oh my gosh, like I gotta put this in. Looks good. So this last piece is wonky as well. We've got 27 inches wide on the bottom and 18 inches wide on the top. Then from the top of this piece of KERDI board to the center of the shower mixing arm is about 13 1/8 inch. 5 1/8 inch over from this side of the KERDI board. So let's go cut that. So here's how I make those wonky cuts. I measured 18 inches over from the right and 27 inches over from the right as well. So I have my 27, my 18 inch mark there. Take a straight edge, or in this case a T-square, and just connect the dots. So 13 1/8 inches up is right here. This is really why these grid lines are so awesome, because now all I have to do is line that up, line up my mark there, and mark 5 inches over, and there you go. That's where the shower arm is going to be. Before I forget, I'm just going to mark the location of the studs on the ceiling. Then I'm just putting in a little sliver of KERDI board right next to the tub. Now, in case you're wondering, there is a gap here. This is the door jamb. I'm going to fill this in with KERDI-FIX, and then I have to flash over the screws, the KERDI-FIX, and a portion of the jamb with KERDI-BAND, because actually, in this case, the casing for the door, this bathroom is so small that the casing for the door is going to be actually in the shower. But I have a solution for that because I'm going to be tacking it in place with either silicone or KERDI-FIX, and that casing is going to be made out of PVC. So it won't be made out of wood, it'll be impervious to water. This bathroom is so tight and so crazy wonky that was the only way that we could fit the tub in, tile, and the door casing and make it look halfway not insane. Here's the knee wall. I'm choosing to place the KERDI board on the face of the knee wall first. Then I'm choosing to do the top of the knee wall next. You want to place a washer and a screw in every single stud that's supporting the knee wall. And the final board I'm just going to place on top of the tub lip like we did before, and line it up with the top of the KERDI board here and the side of the KERDI board on the pony wall. And finally, this little piece right here. The next step is to tape off the bathtub, because what we're going to do is seal between the tub and the KERDI board using KERDI-FIX. I have some extra frog tape laying around. This is just painter's tape, so I'm going to use this. And again, we're doing this because you don't want the KERDI-FIX to get onto the main part of the bathtub. You can fill in the gap between the tub and the KERDI board using KERDI-FIX. KERDI-FIX comes with these applicators, and you can cut them to size. I cut this one pretty big. And you just spin the applicator onto the KERDI-FIX. So in this case, the KERDI board is sitting on top of the tub flange, so that's why we need to fill it in with KERDI-FIX. What I like too is that the KERDI-FIX actually covers up the screw here, and the screw is another point where water can penetrate through the tub and into your surround. So it's nice that the KERDI-FIX actually covers up the screw. Now, this is a personal preference of mine, and because where the tub meets the wall, or in this case the knee wall, that's a place for water penetration, what I'm going to do is apply a bead of KERDI-FIX up this seam here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the tub. And because this door jamb meets the KERDI board, I'm going to add KERDI-FIX right here as well. This is a little bit of a unique situation, so that's why I'm doing this. Schluter recommends using a notch trowel for this. I unfortunately forgot mine at home. I just have this 3-inch trowel, and what I'm going to do is just ensure that this KERDI-FIX is nice and embedded between the tub and the KERDI board. And if you find yourself having excess KERDI-FIX on your trowel, you can just get a scrap piece of KERDI or drywall and just wipe your trowel off on that. So for this bead of KERDI-FIX, I'm just going to use a rag to smooth it out. There are two different ways to waterproof where the tub spout and the shower arm enter through the KERDI board. One is with KERDI-FIX, so I can simply fill this in with KERDI-FIX. I can smooth this out. And I do realize I got some KERDI-FIX on the tub. You can just wipe this off with your finger or with a damp rag. It should come right off. So again, I can do the exact same thing right here, but I'm going to actually hold off because what we're going to do is actually take this little contraption out to install the shower arm later on. So I'm going to hold off on doing this right now. The next step is to mix up unmodified thin set. In this case, we're going to be using Mapei's KERDI-BOARD in white. When you mix up your thin set, follow the directions to a T that come on the bag. So it's always good to put a little bit of water in the bucket. That way the thin set won't stick to the bottom of the bucket as much. Now to mix this up, I'm just using a hammer drill or a 1/2 inch drill with a mixer on the end of it. So you really don't want any lumps in your thin set. There are a few lumps in here, so I'm going to mix this up a little bit better. But you want there to be a fluid consistency. You just want it to barely fall off the trowel. And this is the consistency that you want for embedding the KERDI-BAND into the KERDI-BOARD. Now, to install the KERDI-BAND onto the KERDI-BOARD, you can use two different types of trowels. You can use a 1/4 inch by 3/16 V-notch trowel, or you can use the Schluter KERDI trowel, which is 1/8 by 1/8 inch square notch trowel. I also recommend that you have a bucket of water with a sponge to help you out with this process. You'll see why in a second. Now, when it comes to applying the unmodified thin set to the KERDI-BOARD, where the transition is with the tub and the KERDI fix, you can use the flat side of the KERDI trowel, so flat side, or you can use a 6-inch joint compound knife like what I'm going to do, because this is a very, very tight space, so I just like using a smaller tool. Just like with joint compound, I'm just going to comb or key the thin set into the KERDI-BOARD with the flat side of this, well, there's only one flat side, of this 6-inch joint compound knife. And I'm just going to do this the entire way around the tub surround. And then you can comb in additional thin set with the grooved side of the trowel. Then we're going to embed the KERDI-BAND into the unmodified thin set and KERDI fix. So we're just going to start here and work our way over. And then when you get to the tub spout, you can cut a hole in the KERDI-BAND. Now, as I work my way over to the next wall, I'm just embedding the KERDI-BAND into the unmodified thin set here. You definitely want to smooth out the unmodified thin set and work out all the air bubbles that are behind the KERDI-BAND. After installing the KERDI-BAND over the KERDI fix, it's now a good time to remove the tape. So because this transition between the tub and the KERDI-BOARD is so important, if you pull the tape up and the KERDI-BAND comes off a little bit because it's stuck to the KERDI fix, just make sure that you re-embed it, or you make sure that it's completely flush with the wall using your joint compound knife, so the 6-inch knife, or the KERDI trowel. So that's what I'm doing. And you definitely want to make sure that this is smoothed out here, that you shouldn't have any big clumps of thin set on the wall, because that's going to impede the progress of your tile and mess it up a little bit. So, smooth out this transition as much as possible. And in particular, around the tub spout, because this is kind of a prime culprit for the KERDI fix or the unmodified thin set creating an air bubble or a big clump. So just double check to make sure that this is nice and smooth here. Anywhere you have a KERDI-BOARD joint, just like with a drywall joint, you need to seal it with unmodified thin set and the KERDI-BAND. So I'm going to do all of the horizontal joints next. Now this is a little bit of a weird joint because it's at an angle. So what I'm going to do is just fill it in like that. So I did the bottom part first. I'll just do the top part next. And again, you can use the KERDI trowel to do this. I just prefer to use a 6-inch joint compound knife. It's just a little bit less cumbersome for me in this tight space. Then you want to go back and key in more unmodified thin set using the square notched portion of the KERDI trowel. So you just want to center the KERDI band on top of the seam. Here's a little tip. You can place your trowel, your KERDI trowel there, and then smooth out the KERDI band. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing up above. And then again, just combing in additional thin set. Finding that joint. Rolling the KERDI band into the center of the joint, which is right here. Making sure there are no air bubbles behind this. And I have one more horizontal joint right here. So I'm just going to use a damp sponge to smooth that thin set out a little bit more. Now it's time to do all the vertical joints. Again, very, very tight space, so I'm going to use my 6-inch knife. So you saw me do the vertical joint that way. Another possible way of doing it is this way. You load up 1/2 of your drywall knife. You just slide it down like that. Very much like drywalling or applying joint compound to drywall. So you can put a crease in KERDI band like I'm doing now for corners. And I'm getting the KERDI band as flush with the ceiling as possible. Because this wall is at an angle and it goes down to a plumb wall, we have a little bit of an issue in the corner, but not a problem. I talked to my local Schluter rep about this issue, Roger, who is awesome. And what we talked about was this. You're just going to cut this right here. You're going to fold down the top side and then fold the top part over it. Now, before you do that, you want to apply some thin set into it and comb it in. You just fold it over. And then you smooth that out. What you can do is place another piece of KERDI band over top of it if you want for additional waterproofing. So for example, little thin piece of KERDI band right here. I'm just going to embed that over top of that cut, which was right here. Then you can embed the rest of the KERDI band into the corner. So another tip is you can hold the KERDI band in place with your trowel. So you apply pressure to the trowel, and then you smooth it out with your joint compound knife. As I have a lot of thin set on this wall, I'm just going to use a damp sponge to take the excess off. And also inspect the KERDI band while I'm doing that. I do see there's like a little bit of a lip right there. So, and definitely if you get any thin set on your drywall, get it off immediately. You're not going to be able to sand that down too easily. So now we're going to use this mixing valve seal for the mixing valve. This is what the Schluter mixing valve seal looks like. There is a thicker part to it. This is the thinner part right here. You want to put the thicker part into the wall. And I highly recommend that you test to make sure that this actually fits before applying the thin set, the unmodified thin set, to the KERDI board. So this fits, we're just going to install it. So again, you just apply unmodified thin set all around the mixing valve area. And by the way, if you get thin set on your mixing valve, remove it. You don't want it to harden on the mixing valve, especially when it comes to these integral shutoffs. And then, just like with every other part of the KERDI band, you want to comb out the thin set. And then just embed the mixing valve seal. And again, I'm just going to use a damp sponge to lightly remove some of the thin set. And by the way, you can use a similar seal for the shower arm that'll be holding onto your shower head. I'm just going to hold off on that for right now because I have some other work to do in this bathroom. So I'm going to finish off this wall with one vertical piece of KERDI band. Now, in this case, I have a little bit of a weird setup. I know that my casing, my door jamb for my casing is right here, and I don't want to go more than a 1/4 inch in from the edge of that. So what I'm actually going to do is line up the KERDI band with the jamb and just roll it down like so. So when we got to the tub here, I made a cut or a slit in it. I'm just going to cut my KERDI band with scissors and have that run the whole way to the bottom here. So again, I realize there's a little bit of a gap here. This is where the KERDI fix is. If I wanted to, I can again put a little piece of KERDI band over top of that. Just because I love being safe, that's what I'm going to do. And I'll put a little bit of thin set over top of this. Comb that. And embed this piece. So I'm going to start in the center of the band and work my way to the top. So again, I have 2 vertical joints on the main wall. And we're just going to overlap the unmodified thin set by 2 inches on all bands. So you always want a 2-inch overlap with all KERDI bands. So I have this vertical joint here with the purple board in the bathroom. I'm going to apply KERDI band over top of that seam as well. But I'm only going to go down to right about here because this is where the drywall continues to go down at a steeper angle. So I'll have to wrap this corner in KERDI band. I already cut this KERDI band a little bit to wrap around, so I'll have it wrap around whenever I go to wrap this with the KERDI band. And again, just centering on the seam. So now we have to waterproof the pony wall. Then I'm going to crease a piece of KERDI band. We're going to embed this creased piece like so. And we're going to cover up these screws here. really want this to fit tight. So, you know, just double check that there are no air pockets or anything. I'm going to put another layer of thin set over top of this because I need to embed a second piece of KERDI-BAND on top of the knee wall or pony wall. On the other side here, I'm also going to put some thin set on the drywall. You're just going to comb this out. And on the drywall side too. Now remember, we need a 2-inch overlap, so that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to overlap the other piece of KERDI-BAND by 2 inches. And I'm just going to smooth this out with a damp sponge and then remove all the thin set off the drywall that's on the other side here. Now we're going to waterproof this side of the knee wall. So I pre-cut this piece of KERDI-BAND to fit in this slot. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to just embed it in here like so. Now keep in mind we do have waterproofing here already, so even if there's a little bit of a gap there, it's not an issue. And we're going to fold it over. We're actually going to put another piece of KERDI-BAND on the face of the KERDI-BOARD. So I put a little bit of thin set on the top here and on the other side where the drywall is. And then what I'm going to do is overlap to the top here. I'm going to scooch this over a bit. Then I'm going to make a small cut here, being careful not to cut myself and not to cut the KERDI-BAND. And the reason why is we're going to fold these over. I'll show you. So I made that little cut there. I'm just going to fold this piece over like so. Then I'm going to dab a little bit of thin set over top of that. And then fold this back over that. So then we're just going to smooth out this piece of KERDI-BAND and fold it over the drywall. I did want to show you that I had a few air bubbles here, but I just ran my finger up the side of the KERDI-BAND and worked the air bubbles out of it. Because you're going to want this transition to be as smooth as possible, because we're going to not thin set, but we're going to put joint compound over this once we get our tile in. So for this outside corner, I bought a Schluter KERDI outside corner to go like that. So we're going to use that right here to make sure this transition is waterproof. Then I'm going to do my 2-inch overlap for this corner. And then my final vertical joint is this wonky little one right here. All you have to do is you're waterproofing the drywall, the KERDI-BOARD transition. This will not get wet because there's going to be a glass partition here. But still, just for the heck of it, what we're going to do is flash it with a piece of KERDI-BAND like this. Down here I made a little slit so I can just fold that over. This is completely waterproof because of our outside corner piece and because we flashed over the knee wall or the pony wall. So all we have to do is put this piece in. And again, just wiping off the excess thin set. And every screw and washer needs to be covered by unmodified thin set and a small piece of KERDI-BOARD. This is about a 5 by 5 inch piece. So again, just filling in, combing over, and embedding the KERDI-BOARD. And finally, just sponging off any excess thin set. I get this question a lot. What do you do at the KERDI-BOARD to drywall ceiling transition? Well, you don't necessarily have to do anything. I mean, water shouldn't be spraying up onto the ceiling and going onto the KERDI-BOARD this far up. But if you're really concerned about it, you can put a bead of KERDI-FIX between the KERDI-BOARD and the drywall ceiling. So that is one option if you're really concerned about the water hitting that far up on the ceiling. And really your last step should be to clean off the bathtub and make sure that there's no unmodified thin set on it or KERDI-FIX, and it looks good to go. Because when that thin set dries or KERDI-FIX dries, not so much KERDI-FIX because you can actually take that off with, like I said, a razor scraper, but you don't want to have to do that unless you absolutely have to. So clean off the bathtub the best you can before you wrap up for the day. KERDI-BOARD is way easier to use than cement board in these older bathrooms. You can cut it with a utility knife, you can position it where you want. It has R value to it, so it helps with the insulation of outside walls. Also, it has a 10-year warranty, which is super important if you're an installer or a homeowner using this. Plus, if you have a question about how to install it, you can always call Schluter on their 800 number, and their technical support is phenomenal. If you want to take your bathroom remodeling to the next level, learn how to tile like we did here, put in the plumbing, put in the tub, a floor, etc., you should check out bathroomrepairtutor.com. That's our online course for anybody looking to refine their bathroom remodeling skills and do it like a professional would. We really think it could help you out, and you should check out the website if you are in the middle of doing a bathroom remodel or you want some extra help with that. Again, it's just bathroomrepairtutor.com. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope it helped you out. Make sure to ask any questions you want down in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to assist you. Take care.